Why do I look so little? Hey guys, hold on. Is that better? I look so small. Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JessinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome. We're going to do a little mini preview. This is just a little preview for us to just kind of chit chat about how we're feeling before the Chelsea game, go over the lineups, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're just hanging out. I told you guys yesterday that I'd do a little preview, and I thought it'd be good to just kind of do it right before the game started once the lineups come out, because then we can just kind of like, talk about it. Do you know what I mean? So let's go ahead and chit chat about the lineups because they've already come out. Arsenal, I guess I'll share my screen. Yeah. Ramsdale, White, Kivior, Gabriel, and Zinchenko. Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Trossard, and Jesus. So obviously, Martinelli, Partey, and Holding are not in the lineup. And the bench is Turner, Holding, Tierney, Partey, Vieira, Smith Rowe, Nelson, Martinelli, and Nketiah. So there have been some changes. I will look at Chelsea's lineup as well. I haven't even looked at it. I know Aubameyang's starting. Kepa, Azpilicueta, Fofana, Thiago Silva, Chilwell, Conte, Enzo, Kovacic, Madueke, Aubameyang, and Sterling. And then their bench is just what it is. Nobody really cares. So yeah, this is the team that we've decided to put out there. And a lot of people kind of called for changes before the City game, and then also called for changes again before this game. Obviously, we play Newcastle at the weekend, so maybe getting some fresh legs out there against Chelsea midweek, and then trying to put our best foot forward against Newcastle would be the best thing, especially since we're playing at home, so we should feel pretty strong. But looking at the lineups, obviously Chelsea went literally as strong as they possibly could. This is their cup final. This is all that they're fighting for. They have nothing else left. And so the only thing that they have left really is just to scupper any sort of, title challenge that we may feel like we're still a part of and beat their London rivals. So they're going to obviously be chomping at the bit, and Arsenal are going to have to really get their heads screwed on straight, because regardless to what happens to the end of the season, whether we are, actually try to win the title, like if we have a chance to win the title from here or not, we cannot just roll over and be pathetic for the rest of the season. Like, nobody should be on the beach. Nobody should be thinking anything is over, because quite frankly, like, one, you're going to be at the Emirates, so you should, respect the fans and play as hard as you can. And two, if for some reason Manchester City slipped up, which looks unlikely, but if they did, you want to be in a position where you could take advantage of it. And they just need to stop feeling sorry for themselves and just play. If you think it's over, just play with freedom. I think that's the one thing that I've missed from Arsenal over the last couple of weeks, is just they're playing with the weight of the world on their shoulders. And it's so obvious. Like, it's so obvious that they just cannot like move or do anything normal, because it's just like, oh my God, the title. Just like we have conceded the lead, we're not being chased anymore. Like, we're chasing. So use that to your advantage and just play with freedom. But Chelsea put out a really strong lineup, and with the changes that we've made, we're noticeably weaker, especially in midfield. And I don't mind Jorginho playing, but I'd prefer Jorginho playing with Partey. You guys know, if you've been here before, I think the worst possible midfield that you can have includes Xhaka and Jorginho, because that midfield is not running, and then when you add Zinchenko in there that wants to pinch into midfield, for me, Jorginho and Zinchenko are redundant. They both want to sit at the base of our midfield and dominate the ball, but neither of them want to dominate the territory. And that's why Partey is so important in that midfield, because he's the only like ball winner. He's the only person that can actually like win the ball back and intercept and things like that. So we're looking at a pretty ball forward, on the ball type of midfield with Xhaka, Jorginho, and Odegaard. And then you have, like I said, Zinchenko in there. The interesting, I think, addition in there is probably Kivior. We should have done this a long time ago. I'm finding this, you might as well just play holding until the rest of the season if you played him in our most important games. I just maybe he's resting him for Newcastle, but playing Kivior like these types of games at home when we're in a position of like decent strength should have came before we needed him, at Anfield or at Sporting, so odd choice. And then obviously Martinelli, who for me is our most dangerous attacker, is not playing, and Saka is still in the lineup, which I don't dislike Saka. Everybody knows I love Saka. I just feel like if there was anybody that maybe needed a little bit of a rest, it might have been him. And if Trossard was going to come into the side, I would have just naturally put him in through the center. But Martinelli seems to be the first guy subbed all the time, and the first guy off, like out of the lineup, which is odd to me, considering his form. But this is the lineup that we're going with, and I think this is more of a mental test than anything. It's one of those where if Arsenal, want to win, it's going to be about, can they just get out of their heads and just play their football? But yeah, I'm worried about the midfield. I just think this midfield just, I get that you want to give Partey maybe a rest, and, quite frankly, based on his last couple of performances, he probably shouldn't be playing. But what can you do? But this midfield has against Aston Villa, it was cut through quite easily on several occasions. Against Leicester, it was okay. Against Sporting, it wasn't great. So we'll see how it goes. But I think the worst part about this game is that there's just no buzz for it. Like, nobody really is up for it. Excuse me. People were saying that, it was like as difficult as it was to get tickets before, it's pretty easy to get tickets now, which I think it kind of shows like the level of investment Arsenal fans have in the rest of the title race per se. So yeah, we're just kind of going through the motions at this point. But, Arsenal need to still, finish strongly. They can't just go out with a whimper, because it's nobody's fault but their own. Like, it's not like anything catastrophic happened. Yeah, Saliba's injury happened, but that doesn't really excuse the performances at West Ham or against Southampton. So they just kind of have to like get over it and put in a decent performance. I'm really interested to see what happens at the Emirates. What it sounds like, because I have this weird feeling it's going to be quiet and a little bit tension. Like, I have a feeling it's going to be like that, kind of similarly to how it was when we were about to play Brentford after losing to Everton. It was quiet in there. It was a little bit like people were afraid, you could just feel it. And so I would imagine that it's kind of like that. But, both teams put out pretty strong lineups. Chelsea is being probably as strong as they could potentially go. And if Arsenal are not up for it, they will lose this game. That's just as simple as it is, and Chelsea, they need one more point in order to, mathematically get that magic number of 40. And it wouldn't be a typical Arsenal season for us to give them that. And also maybe Aubameyang scoring or Mudryk coming off of the bench and scoring. Like, the script doesn't look good unless Arsenal just freaking show up for once, Coach Dave says Saka should have been dropped, not Martinelli. But he's the golden boy. I mean, I think, if I had to choose somebody that maybe should get a little bit of a rest and be rotated, it probably would have been Saka or Jesus. Martinelli just is our Energizer Bunny. He's our most dangerous attacker scoring wise. And so, but Saka has kind of been given this, undroppable role from Mikel Arteta, and that worries me just a little bit. So yeah, we'll see. Saksham says Martinelli has been better than Saka last 10, 15 games. Arteta thinks Saka is untouchable. He is to him, so that's definitely something that I feel like, is worrying. It really is, because I think Martinelli is unlucky not to be playing today. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw him before the game ended, though. CU says Arteta was vocal about how Kiwior will change how we build up from the back. Interested to see how well he does today. Yeah, this is why, as down as people are about Kiwior and Vieira, Arteta's never spoken so highly about two players that we bought before. And so I think these are both Arteta signings, meaning that they will get more than one season to show what they can do at Arsenal before, maybe they don't make it. And so I am excited to see Kiwior, but I was excited to see Kiwior in February. I think not betting him in sooner left us a little bit short in terms of, options that we could use. And I even think Kiwior might have been a decent option at left back to, play at the big grounds. Like, it'd be nice to, Zinchenko is a great at-home player when we have a lot of possession, but against transition teams, against the bigger teams, against especially away from home, he's not as good of an option. And so with Tomiyasu injured, we have nothing else. And Kiwior might have been able to do that, but there was no confidence in him because he played one game against a Sporting. He wasn't great, but when you just throw somebody into a European tie when they've never played with anybody before, the expectations, like, what are the expectations? Then the next time we saw him was in a back three against, at Anfield. So it's difficult, Sakshem says, I can see Gabrizet missing sitters today. Coach Dave says, no other big club would handle Saka's development like Arteta does. We need to sign a winger to keep him hungry. And competing for his place. I mean, potentially. I think Arteta's trust in Saka is also probably one of the biggest reasons why his progression has been so quick. I don't think we can overlook the fact that a young player playing so many minutes when they probably wouldn't have otherwise is probably the reason why he's developed so quickly. But on the opposite end of it, it's like, but he still needs to have that hunger and that competition. And because, like, there's nobody else to compete with him and Arteta doesn't drop him, that could, bring in a level of complacency. And he's about to sign a major contract where he's going to be probably our highest earner. And so that type of player needs to be showing up. That player needs to always have a fire under their ass, but you think about it this way, like, I'm not sure there's many star players in a team, regardless of age, that necessarily have that much competition in the team that they're in. So, like, an example of that would be, Mohamed Salah. He's never really had that much competition for his spot at Liverpool. In fact, they have, 3 left wingers, Jota comes in, he either plays central or left. Gakpo either plays central or left. Nunez either plays central or left. Luis Diaz plays on the left. There's literally nobody else that can play Salah's position. So I do think that he's kind of taking up that role, but what that requires is for you to be the star guy. And I think that, Saka's a little bit, he's being put on that pedestal without necessarily maybe having the CV to back it up. And that worries me a little bit. Let's see. Coach Dave says Saka has never done what Salah has done. Exactly. But that's basically what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying he is Salah, but he is operating in that same capacity, that role where, they're kind of like your main guy, always plays, not really any backup for them. You require them to do a lot. Saka has to kind of be that guy for us, especially on the new contract that he's going to be on. It's a lot of pressure, but if he's going to be that guy that is never dropped, then he has to perform day in and day out. Afsar says Martinelli was poor at Man City. So was Saka. So was Jesus. So was Thomas Partey. So was Xhaka. So was Odegaard. So was Holding. So was Gabriel. So was Ramsdale, White, and Zinchenko. Everybody was poor. So if that's a reason why Martinelli is dropped, then we shouldn't have a single guy that played against Man City on that pitch. Like, he still is probably our most informed player, despite not playing well at Man City. We didn't even have a shot except for like Holding shot that went in the back of the net. So yeah, I mean, he was poor, but like, so was everybody else. And I don't even know how people even blamed the attackers when we didn't have the ball. We couldn't gain it back. It was basically in our defensive half the entire time. Quite frankly, the midfield for me was the biggest issue because literally nobody was doing anything. Let's see. EK Trans says start Jakob over Holding. I mean, that's what Arteta's doing. Seems a little bit too little, too late, but we'll see. Let's see. Mr. Star Fracture says personally would have dropped Jesus for Trossard. I kind of agree with that. I would have just did like for like. That to me is like for like. But maybe there's something we don't know about Martinelli. Maybe he's a little bit under his levels or something. I don't know. We don't know everything, but yeah, a little bit odd that Jesus can keeps his spot. All things considered. Bendover says, let's just get on with it. Fair enough. Jane says, I'm hoping GB was dropped because he will be the first off the bench and will be impactful. Seems unfair. Who's GB? Am I missing something? Am I dumb? You mean Martinelli? Maybe Martinelli. I think it's a little bit unfair, but at the same time, like at this point in the season, like what is, it is what it is, Hugo Garcia says, truth is Trossard should have not been dropped. You guys know my thoughts on this. This is hindsight considering, Jesus. Nobody was saying that Jesus shouldn't have been playing them games when he was scoring those goals. It wasn't until after Southampton when he missed those sitters that people felt like he should have, never been playing. But had he had not been playing, he wouldn't have scored those goals, so a little bit hindsighty there. But yeah, based on today and the fact that we have to go to Newcastle at the weekend, I would have started Trossard over Jesus. Avsar says, Xhaka, Jorginho equals disaster, slow transition. If we get into a transition game, we're fucked. Like, that's just the reality. You can't play Xhaka, Jorginho, and Zinchenko in the same midfield. It doesn't work. We got away with it, against Aston Villa as well as Leicester, but we didn't get away with it against Sporting. And so I fear for us in transition, but I'm kind of like having a really difficult time getting up for this game and like feeling like there's anything on it, to be honest. Like I need to see a really good performance from this team to get back invested into this this title race situation or even just the season, because quite frankly the last 4 games have been just a roller coaster of emotions, and I really just need like an easy win. But again, we're playing Chelsea at home when they have nothing to lose except for this is their cup final, and we're just off of the back of like a really mentally draining run, so I don't know what we're gonna look like. Sohan says, Jess, it might be a 3-2-4-1 with Zinni and Jorginho as 6s, with Jesus, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka as the 4 behind Trossard and Jesus. It may be, but I still doubt it. Like Arteta doesn't change anything. Like it's a 4-3-3, I think, to be honest. But would I like to see some variation at this point? Yes, but it's a little bit too late. Like even if it was a 3-2-4-1, I'd be like, why didn't you do that before? Try it against Southampton, try it against West Ham, make sure that we do something a little bit different. So, we're not just absolutely left for dead in some of the games that we played. But, I just think it's the typical Jorginho sitting in a 6 by himself and Xhaka and Odegaard in front of him, The only thing that kind of helps potentially is that, Kivior hopefully is quicker and better on the ball than Holding. And maybe that'll help us kind of like not have like that big of a gap in terms of like the drop down from Saliba to Holding is quite vast. But then also like there's the space in behind that tends to be really exploited when Holding is in there. And then there's also like this huge gap in midfield as well. So hopefully he can minimize that, but who even knows, so hard. It's difficult to know what we're trying to do now. Let's see. Fabricio says Madueke versus Zinni scares me. Yeah. It's a mismatch, but most wingers versus Zinchenko is a mismatch, so Saksham says, no, bro, I'm not at the stadium. So you guys talking to each other. Afsar says, question, Newcastle can finish second, but does it matter? I mean, it does matter, but this is a thing. It's a good thing that we, that we qualified for Champions League on the same day that we lost to Man City, because then, we're not still in a top 4 scrap. And like I've said, I feel like if it was in question at all at this point, we would be in danger of not making the top 4 based on our final games and the mental state of this team at the moment. But, would it be a catastrophe if we finish third at this point? Yes and no. Like, would it be a good look? No. But, at this point, based on, the way that the season is panning out, I don't know if many people would give a shit, to be honest, but Newcastle can finish second. And if we don't win today and then we lose to them at the weekend, we will finish third. There's just no way, we're just not, so we have to win today. But are the boys motivated to win today? By all means necessary? I don't know. True Gunners TV says Arteta making changes to the starting lineup. Shame. Should have happened 2 weeks ago. I'm predicting Chelsea to get 40 points tonight. Again, this is their cup final. This is all that they have left, and they probably will be playing with some level of freedom. They don't have to care about the rest of the season. And I just don't know that Arsenal are going to be playing with that same level of freedom, and motivation. So, yeah. Lucas says, yes, it will. We are 10 points clear with 5 games to go. It will be in better goal difference. I just think so many people have checked out of the title race. Like, if people were, Arsenal finished third, oh my God, it's a blah, blah, blah. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, nothing is going to happen. Arteta's not getting sacked. It's not going to change our summer plans. Like, there's no real difference between second and third, really, so yeah, it'd be disappointing, but like, is it going to change anything massively? Like, the only thing that could change things is if Arteta didn't finish second, he finished 5th, so I don't know. I'm having a hard time connecting with the idea that I'm going to be like, I've already like the emotion and the disappointment that I probably will have for the season has already been expended because of how the last 4 games went. So if they just further put it in the dirt, like, what am I going to do? I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, I just, the way that we have thrown away this title for me is more catastrophic than anything else. Finishing third, whatever. Like, we just shouldn't even be in this position talking about this right now. So yeah, Dan says, I'm proud and disappointed at the same time, if it makes any sense. Yeah, I hear that. A lot of people are. I think the disappointment of not winning the title or just letting it go the way that we did, I think it's more the way than actually doing it, if that makes sense. It sucks, like, and so I can understand that. But at the same time, like, I'm happy that we were in that position. I'm just disappointed about the way that we threw it away, and that's what's making it difficult to get up for this game, because it just kind of feels like, well, what else do you do, Akil says, is it just me, or is there emotional exhaustion where I'm not as excited as before? Is it the same for you? Exactly. Like, it's just, somebody in the comments was like, oh, Jess, you're just moaning a lot today. And I'm just like, but I mean, there's not much to be happy about. Like, you know what I mean? There's not much to get up for. There's not much to be excited about. I mean, that's just the reality, is like, yes, of course, I'm going to watch Arsenal play, and I hope that we play well, and I'm hoping that we win. But the last 4 games have been so exhausting from an emotional standpoint that it's just difficult from here. So it's kind of like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't force you guys. Like, I can't force this excitement when so many people have checked out from the season. Like I told you guys at the beginning, like, it's easy to get tickets now, so what I'm not going to lie to you guys and say, like, yeah, I'm like so excited for this game. Like, it is what it is, SM7 says, am I the only one who still thinks we have a chance? Anything can happen. We just need to go for it in these remaining games. Well, we have to win all of our games from now to the end of the season, starting with this one. And my energy can change very quickly from now, you know, like at 10 o'clock, I can feel completely different about this team and this season based on how they perform today. Like, if they act like they still feel like they have a chance, then I'll feel like we still have a chance. My problem is that, you know, I don't think they believe. I told you guys after Southampton that I was concerned about what was going to happen at the Etihad because of the way that they collapsed on the ground. It was almost as if they were telling us that this is it. We know we bottled it. Do you know what I mean? And so it's really difficult for me to, like, the energy sometimes just has to come from the players. And I think if they pick themselves up and they put a good account of themselves, more of the fans will come back and be on side. But they really can't look at those last 4 games that they played and look at the fans and be like, wait, why aren't you guys, like, excited for these last couple of games? Like, Kabui says, dead rubber games until the end of the season. Disappointed it ended this way. Don't see City dropping more than 2 points at most. I don't see us picking up more than 7-8 points best case. It's just one of those where it just kind of feels like these are dead rubbers, so yeah. Let's see. Elliot Roberts says the changes need to be motivated by the fact that we have been substandard for weeks now and the supporters deserve a performance. I mean, I'm gonna just be real. I think the fans have carried, not the team so much, but I think the fans have been extra, like, special this season in terms of, like, supporting the team and, and making sure that Emirates is a fortress and all that kind of stuff. So I think the fans have done, like, more than enough of their job. And I think that, they have every right to be disappointed and a little bit jaded with the rest of the season. It's up to the players to show the fans that they still have something to care about regardless. And, like, I get that there's very little chance of us winning the title, but the fact that they performed and then acted as though there was nothing else to play for after that Southampton game was just like, why am I wasting my time? Like, I love the team. They've done great this season, but, I don't really know how, I just don't, I don't know how anybody can blame the fans for maybe not being as excited about this game. Siddharth says we need to have a performance this game to reignite us. It's all up to the players for me. That's the truth. Afsar says, looks like with all the changes, even Arteta has given up on the title 100%. I don't think changes necessarily means you've given up on the title. I feel like, I just feel like, these changes or trying different things or rotation should have come before. We've been calling for it for a while. Like, and unfortunately, like, I feel like fans have been gaslit into thinking that if you're not in multiple competitions and, you don't have world-class players on your bench, you shouldn't rotate. You should always play your best starting 11. I watched Newcastle, who are not playing in multiple competitions, and Brighton, who, yes, went to a FA Cup semifinal, but are not in multiple competitions from here, rotate their lineups consistently. And so we're the only team that kind of, like, runs their starting 11 into the ground. And the fans believe, oh, well, if it's normal not to be able to change a couple of pieces and still play at a high level. Arsenal have a better bench than everybody, barring probably City, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man United. So, we don't have, like, this dead bench where we can't do any changes. So for me, changing things doesn't really mean anything about the title. It just feels like he's trying things and just giving people playing time now for no reason. Like, I think he should have made more changes before, like, come on. Oscar says, I think we can get a win, but it won't be easy. Chelsea are going to be up for it. They're going to be excited to just kind of, like, kill off any sort of hope, win at the Emirates. Again, they don't have anything else to play for, so it's up to Arsenal and whether or not they want to do something. Lucas says the way the end of the season is important. The way they end the season is important to me. If we just give up, then why would I trust them going forward? Yeah. I hear that. Let's see. Sakshem says, I can see Chernobyl, Dan James, or Abba scoring. I mean, the script is written. I know one of them is going to score against us. Like, it just is what it is. They'll get their 40 points. They'll get it against us after losing 5 games in a row. It's just the script. Like, you know it. Elliot Roberts says, change is about trust, and Arteta doesn't trust the majority of his bench. These are his signings, though. You know, the whole doesn't trust the bench, and so it makes sense that he wouldn't rotate at all. These are his signings. Like, I'm looking at it right now. He gave Holding a new contract. He gave Tierney a new contract. He signed Partey. He signed Vieira. He gave Smith Rowe a new contract. He has kept Nelson around, brought him back off of loan. Martinelli has gotten a new contract under him, and so has Nketiah. So this entire bench, like, and some of the players that would have otherwise been on the bench, Kivior, who's usually on the bench, he signed him. Jorginho, a player that he raved about in January, he signed him. And he also signed Trossard. So the idea that, like, you know, it's okay for him not to use a bench that he signed or re-signed doesn't make sense to me either. You know what I mean? He just hold that. Like, he has to learn how to use the squad better, you know, and it's all good and well and fine doing it now, but we should have been doing it before to keep guys fresh, keep guys interested, give them confidence. You know, we're the only group of fans that have been gaslit into thinking it's okay to have bench players that look useless when they come out there, and just blame it on recruitment and say, oh, well, they're not good players. Those are not bad players, you know, they're just not. They're just not, you know. But yeah, so obviously the team has to, you know, come out there and do their very best and, like, try to get something out of this game. It's so sad to even say that, but, like, they have to, you know, and hopefully they can. But my score prediction is 2-2. I do think that we will draw this game. I just am not sure that they're going to come out with the right mentality, to be quite honest. It's going to be rough. You know, it's going to be rough. And again, like I said, Chelsea's only motivation from now until the end of the season is to, you know, play well against us. You know, I think that's why Aubameyang's playing out of the cold. You know, it's like, what is he playing for? He's only playing because he used to play at Arsenal. Like, the script is written. So I think we'll draw this game. But, you know, hopefully I'm wrong. I think Trossard will get on the score sheet. But yeah, we'll see. David says, let's stop with the negativity. Chelsea are where they are because they're crap. A win tonight and we are back at the top of the league. Let's believe. Yeah, like, I get that. That's all true, that Chelsea are where they are because they're not very good. And a win tonight means we're back at the top. So yeah, but I just need to see them play well again. That's it. You know, I just need to see them play well again. And when we go into these runs, we tend to just kind of continue on with them. Akil says, side note, would you take Don Carlo in the summer, hypothetical only, if he was interested in managing us? Okay, you're just kind of, sorry, I have to, like, get somebody out of here because they're just saying the same things over and over again. I mean, that's a difficult question, but I think if you have the opportunity to have a world-class manager managing Arsenal and he's willing to take the job, you have to think about it, right? Because it doesn't get much better than, you know, it doesn't get much better than him, you know, but than Ancelotti. But at the same time, like, do I think he'd want to manage us? No. You know, do I think he's leaving Real Madrid? No. Do I think that we're have the right type of team for him? Maybe not, you know, but I know where that's coming from. Obviously, Lee Gunner has said that we should sack Arteta for Ancelotti, but yeah, I don't even think that that's really, like, if we were going to hire him, we should have hired him before we hired Mikel Arteta, or instead of him, you know. Dynamic Shot says, is anyone else worried? I think most people are a little bit, you know, either not really invested or a little bit uneasy about how we're going to play today. Noboru says, will you sack the manager if he fails to win the league? well, I'm not in charge. I know Arteta's not going anywhere. That's the truth. Like, he's not going anywhere. So whether he finishes second or fourth, he's not going anywhere. So, that he's not going anywhere. And I think that you shouldn't just sack any manager just because they don't win the league. I don't think that that's necessarily fair. I think you sack a manager when you know when it's right to sack a manager. When they're not getting the most out of the group, or the group's not following them anymore. They're not listening to their ideas. They've taken them as far as they can go. And I'm not necessarily sure that, like, Mikel Arteta finishing second, not winning the league this season necessarily means any of that, so it just means that we failed to win the league. Subdued says the individual players should be playing for their spot in the next game. Arteta needs to be ruthless with the players for the balance of the run-in. Yeah, I mean, but let me ask a genuine question. Like, who in the starting 11 is actually fighting for their spot? Who? Excuse me. Sorry, something in my throat. I guess that's my question, is who's genuinely in that starting 11 fighting for their spot? No one, so they all know that they're going to come back into the starting 11 for the Newcastle game if they have been, dropped today. And that's the problem, is that I think the bench players know that even if they start a game and they play well, there's not really a chance for them to start. So yeah. Amon Deep says, I'm really worried. This Chelsea lineup looks really strong, at least on paper, and we always manage to give boost to teams who are underperforming. I mean, we have single-handedly, reignited Liverpool and West Ham seasons off of the back of them having good 45-minute spells against us. Like, it's pretty bad. So I don't know what's going to happen today, but, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't win this game. Chris Lau says, it's the first season in forever I've enjoyed watching the footy again. That's still a success in my book, Arteta in. Yeah, the football's been good. We've scored tons of goals. We've had good moments. It's just a shame because I think we felt quite similar last season. Like, once we got past like that, those first 3 games, once we got to that Norwich game and we started seeing like, the impact that like Ben White and Tomiyasu and Odegaard were having on this team, and the growth of Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe and Martinelli. Really enjoyed that season. It's just, you have to finish the season on a high, and the last 2 seasons we're finishing it on a low, and that has to change next season. I think we need to be, gaining momentum and gaining speed towards the end, and not kind of like capitulating at the same point every time. But yeah, like, there's obviously, when we think back on this season, I think when people are less emotional, including me, we'll see more, positivity around this season. But yeah, right now I can't really fault people for being a little bit disappointed based on, like, I can't, despite the football being good. Hugo says, such a good season, but the title's gone on to the next season. Arteta Bottle Class says, I'm hoping we get something from the game today. Call me positive. Keenan says, I'm glad that Arteta is rotating our players with Kivior, Jorginho, and Trossard all getting a start. Yeah, my only fear is the midfield seems a little like an obvious train wreck. But I'm happy to see Kivior and Trossard come into the team for sure. Let's see. Gunnar Matter says, Tierney should be in there. No way we will get a clean sheet with Zinni in the inverted position. I mean, we didn't get a clean sheet with Tierney in the team either. This idea that Tierney gives us some like huge defensive, solidity is not really true. Like, against West Ham, we conceded just as many goals as we probably would have with Zinchenko in the team, to be quite honest. So yeah, I think who we're missing is Tomiyasu. If we want to be more defensively solidified, you want Tomiyasu in the team, and him being missing has been so detrimental to our season. So yeah, but Tierney, I do agree that maybe he should have more minutes, but like, the idea that he's going to be like this super solid left back is kind of like a farce. Keenan says, in terms of depth, we have a top 4 team. Second place isn't a bottle job. Yeah, I mean, I know people are really sensitive about the word like bottle and bottle job, so I get that. For me, the way that West Ham and Southampton game in particular went, I can't really get over that. I do think we really threw it away there. So what I'll say is we threw away the title for sure. Simon Bond says, which is the point, Jess. The players are good, but there's no competition among them, and that's where the mentality unravels. Well, I mean, again, I think we've gaslit ourselves into believing that because Arteta doesn't trust the bench, that means that those players are not good, or they can't offer anything or play well in any capacity. And that is just not true. We know Tierney, Tomiyasu, Kivior played in the World Cup. Like, he's not trash. Vieira played in Europa League and Champions League last season with Porto. He's not trash. Like, ESR, we know he's a good player. And Kedia, he's played games. Like, and Jorginho, he's won things. He's won more than a lot of the players that we have in our team right now. So again, like, just because there's no competition, the competition is not that because we don't have a good level players on the bench. It's because Arteta refuses to rotate. And so there is no competition because there's no chance that even if you play well that you'll start the next game. And so I'm not really in the same position as a lot of other people where I feel like I believe that these players are just shit on the bench and we just need, like, it's just not that. I just don't think these players are that bad. Because remember, even last season, the players on the bench were exactly the same. They were basically useless, and we kind of told ourselves that they weren't any good. We've improved the bench and then they're still useless. So what are we going to do? Mark says Saka has been off it for the last few weeks. Martinelli should have started and Jesus plays in Saka's position. I think Martinelli's unlucky to start. That's what I'll say. Hugo Garcia says we need more defenders that defend first, not just on ball playing center backs. Do you think Gabriel and Saliba are not defending first? I think Zinchenko is really our only defender that's like not really a defender. But I hear what you're saying. But let's go ahead and get some predictions out there. What do you guys think is going to happen? I know it's a hard game to get up for post, the last 4 games or so. But what are your predictions for the game? How do you think it's going to go? Let me know in the comments. No, this haven't been the most positive stream, but guess what? We're not in a positive position, So it's hard to be like, when it's like, damn. Yeah. Hugo says as backup, I mean to say, fair enough. Fair enough. OBT says no way a clean sheet. OBT says 3-1. Afsar says 2-2. Maclib says 1-1. Keenan says Reece Nelson looked fantastic. We need to sign him on a long-term contract and should have been starting a couple of games. I actually thought he should have started today. But if he were to get a new contract, I wouldn't be upset by it. But I don't think that should be like in lieu of another attacker. I think we need another one, but I think Reece Nelson has done good enough to get another contract. I think that's fine. Fabricio says 2-0 to us. Not that means anything. Richard says 2-2. Afsar says Keenan like Nelson, but his injury record is poor. I think if he's playing like I think if he's playing like a bit part role, his injuries are not that big of a deal. Again, like Reece Nelson should not be re-signed as like our, one of our 5 elite attackers. Like Arsenal need another, like they need another really good attacker. Someone that we sign for a good amount of money, whether that's a striker or a right winger. But Nelson could be like a filler. Sometimes you need some like good, solid academy players that can kind of like fill the roles in. I think Nelson could be that, but he definitely shouldn't be like given a new contract in lieu of like not, getting somebody else, if that makes sense. But yeah, MRM says, I think we are going to father Chelsea today. A good 7-0 coming. Yeah, I would love that. Afsar says, Jess, in the position we are in the Premier League, managers like George Graham, Wenger, and Alex Ferguson would have won the league 100%. Yeah, probably. But you're also talking about some of like the best managers to ever manage in the Premier League as well. Like, I think Arteta's still learning, and I think he'll learn a lot from this season. Because you have to know how to manage the run in. And he struggled 2 seasons in a row to manage the run in and to get us going in an upward trajectory at the end of the season rather than kind of slowing down and going down, you know. World Boss says, you defo know your football. Thank you. Obi says, hey, Jess, hard to predict the scores as you don't know which Arsenal will turn up. Exactly. Anything can happen. If the right Arsenal turn up, we could beat Chelsea, could bend Chelsea over. Yep. But the right team has to show up, and I'm hoping that they do today. CU says, Jess, what do you think about Partey's future at Arsenal? I don't even know. You know, I've spoken on, you know, the thing that's happening outside off of the pitch, that I think generally like that will decide a lot of what happens with Partey, to be honest. If he is here next season, I don't think he'll be a starter just because, you know, he can't play every 4 days, and your central defensive midfielder has got to be somebody that is like an ever constant in your lineup, and he really struggles to maintain fitness throughout an entire season. And so I don't think you're going to go out there and spend almost 100 million on Declan Rice for him to play behind Thomas Partey. You know, and based on reports, Caicedo and Rice are both being looked at for that 6th position. So Arsenal are definitely planning for life beyond Thomas Partey. And I think that kind of tells you enough about what Arsenal think about Thomas Partey at this point. But yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here. I will be on the Football Terrace after the game, and then depending on what happens, maybe I'll do a stream. I don't know, but I will be out of town starting tomorrow. I'll be traveling, so you guys won't see anything from me. Maybe in the morning, but I'm not going to promise it because you just never really know with my schedule. But you know, I'll try to do a stream while I'm gone. But to be honest, I'm going to be at a festival and I'm going to be having fun. So like, don't count on it. But yeah, I will see you guys soon, and I love you guys very, very much. Please, we'll get to a better space, I promise you. But enjoy the game, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, y'all.